In India today, household debt has risen to an estimated 121 lakh crore rupees, which is close to 43% of the country's GDP. But who is doing this borrowing? Behind this borrowing are individuals and families. Individuals who are taking loans for education, for healthcare, for business needs, for housing, or just to cope up with the rising living costs. Loans provide support and opportunity. However, when repayments become difficult, the experience can quickly turn stressful or sometimes even traumatic. Across India, many borrowers face frequent disturbing calls from recovery agents, unexpected visits, and sometimes harassment in the form of stealing personal property as collateral. There are multiple regulations given by the Reserve Bank of India or RBI, but unfortunately, awareness of these rights and protections is still limited. This documentary aims to focus on the ground level, the city of Faridabad. In Faridabad, people from different walks of life are facing repayment pressure and, in some situations, behavior that crosses ethical or legal boundaries. Many people do not speak openly about this, often due to worry or uncertainty or about the consequences that might take place in the aftermath. One of the main motivations behind this documentary is to increase awareness. Borrowers should have awareness that being in debt does not take away their right to dignity or to fair treatment. Another part of my motivation is representation. While international documentaries frequently have and continue to scrutinize and highlight debt collection practices in Western countries, India's experience is overlooked. This documentary does not aim to show all lenders through a negative lens, nor does it deny the importance of repayment or financial responsibility. By focusing on real experiences in Faridabad, this documentary aims to reduce stigma and ensure that people understand both their responsibilities and the ways to protect themselves and the people around them. Let's dive deeper into what actually goes on in the streets of Faridabad when it comes to debt collection. To understand the main problem borrowers were facing, it had to begin with listening, but not to numbers or reports, but to people. More specifically, borrowers in Faridabad, each with a different background and a way of life, yet facing similar pressures. Most conversations did not begin with long-term defaulting or denial to repay. Instead, they began with small disruptions in loan repayments. Across most interviews, borrowers spoke about sudden family costs, medical expenses, or delayed salaries. This is reinforced by Mr. Dilshad Ali.
मेरा पहला सवाल है, आपने या आपके किसी फैमिली मेंबर दोस्त वगैरह ने कभी लोन लिया है? कितने कितने का लिया है और कितना टाइम चला था वो लोन?
हाँ, आजकल लोन तो आजकल सबकी ज़रूरत है। मेरे फ्रेंड सर्कल में लिया भी है। मेरे एक फ्रेंड ने लिया था समथिंग 2.5 लाख रुपए का लिया था। और जो है वैसे तो टाइमली ईएमआई जा रही थी, बट कभी-कभी ऐसा हो जाता है ना, हाल ही में कोई फैमिली में कोई मजबूरी आ जाती है, परेशानी हो जाती है, तो उस रीज़न से कभी-कभी ऐसा होता है कि बंदा नहीं पेमेंट कर पाता है।
A single missed EMI, which was often described as a temporary or one-time thing, triggered a chain reaction that led to penalties being applied and late fees being accumulated. What felt manageable before quickly became a burden. A great example of this is shared by Mr. Mahipal Singh.
इनका क्या होता है कि कई बार बैंक में मैंने पिछली बाइक ली थी, इससे पहले बाइक ली थी, तो वो एक बैंक से था पहले भी, तो उसमें क्या था कि हमारे जो कोई ईएमआई बाउंस हो जाती है ना, तो उसका क्या था 500 रुपये चार्ज करते थे।
अच्छा।
एक बाउंस हो गया, अगर ईएमआई नहीं कटी तो 500 रुपये चार्ज होगा, और अगर 2 बार कर दिया तो 1000 रुपये, मतलब 500 से मल्टीप्लाई हो जाएगा। पिछली बार मेरे साथ ऐसा हुआ था कि एक ही दिन में कम से कम 7-8 बार ऑटो डेबिट बाउंस हुआ था, और मेरा ऐसे कर करके कभी 500, कभी 900, कभी 1000, 12 से 13,000 रुपये
जो आपकी किस्त के ऊपर, उसके ऊपर 12,000
अकाउंट से कट गया। और उस समय मैं ऐसा कर नहीं पाया था क्योंकि मेरे बैंक, उस समय मेरा फ़ोन का जो नेटवर्क नहीं चल रहा था, इस वजह से मैं निकाल भी नहीं पाया, मतलब ऐसे एरिया में था। इस वजह से फिर मेरी बात भी हुई थी, तो उन्होंने मेरे को बताया कि आपका जो EMI बाउंस होती है उसका चार्ज।
For many, the speed at which the amount grew was unexpected. This financial setback was no longer just about catching up. Rather, it became about keeping up with a loan that was increasing faster than the speed they could pay it back at. Borrowers and consumers also described repeated calls throughout the day for days on end. Several interviewees explained that even after answering calls and explaining the situation, the communication did not ease. As repayments became irregular, communications from lenders became more intense. To showcase this, Mr. Mahipal talks about his experiences.
आप कैसे करवाएंगे? मैंने कि हम बोल देते हैं कि नेक्स्ट डे आप अपना एग्जीक्यूटिव भेज दो। उसके पहले ऐसा होता था, बाकी अब ऐसा नहीं होता है, अब तो फोन पे फोन आएंगे और कई बार तो जो एग्जीक्यूटिव होते हैं उनके वो ऐसा इतना बहुत ही रूडली बात करते हैं।
अच्छा
For some borrowers, the pressure existed outside the phone. Recovery agents arrived at homes or workplaces without warning. These visits often changed a private financial struggle into a public experience visible to all, ultimately ruining the experience and the reputation of the person in their immediate circle. Collectors reached out to relatives, neighbors, or employers, often without consent. A private financial difficulty turned into bringing shame and emotional pressure into the borrower's life. These frequent calls to relatives and neighbors also puts pressure on those parties, resulting in their lives also being difficult. A good example of this is shared by Mr. Jay Seth, who faced similar kinds of pressure.
But one interesting case is there कि one of our neighbors here in this market, he has taken a loan and then he has given in a reference number of the neighbor shopkeepers. He shut down the shop and then we received calling, okay, you know that person and he has taken loan. If you will, they were starting misbehaving. They are threatening us कि मतलब using word like अपने जीजा को नहीं जानते, ये है वो है. From where they have taken number, we do not know, whether from the shopkeeper signboard or something else. But they putting pressure so that we should bring that person so that he will pay. So without our knowledge, he has taken and he may have been given or he may not. From where they have taken number, we don't know. But we got some of the shopkeepers in this market threatening call for that.
Borrowers explained that they had not fully understood the terms when signing. Long documents, complex language, and urgency during the borrowing process made careful review difficult. Important conditions, penalties, escalation clauses, or recovery processes were often overlooked. Borrowers also admitted that they did not know what recovery agents were legally allowed to do. Few were aware of RBI guidelines regarding call timings, respectful conduct, or restrictions on contacting family members. Basic information provided about the loan was all that they knew. In some cases, borrowers did not know much about their rights at all, where all they knew was if they had taken a loan, then they should pay it back on time in order to potentially get another loan in the future. This is exemplified by Ms. Neelam Sharma.
उधारी चुकाने के बारे में, इस सब के बारे में आपको अपने अधिकार के बारे में ऐसा क्या पता है?
उधारी चुकाने के बारे में यही है जी कि जिससे लिया है वो, जैसे कभी मैं अपना घर खुद ही चलाती हूँ तो कभी लेट सेट हो जाता है और देना तो होता ही है जी, जिसका लेना होता है।
हाँ।
इसी तरीके से।
अच्छा, तो आपको इतना पता है कि ऐसे अगर लिया है तो
हाँ,
वापस टाइम पे देना है, ऐसे
हाँ,
ऐसे होता है।
और टाइम पे देने के बाद ये होता है जी कि हमें दोबारा भी वो सुविधा फिर मिल सकती है,
हाँ,
उसमें ज़्यादा मिल सकती है।
अच्छा अच्छा। आपको ऐसा क्या लगता है कि ऐसे जो उधारी चुकाने के जो ऐसे मेथड होते हैं, ऐसे तरीके होते हैं, उनमें कभी कभार गलत ऐसी चीज़ें होती हैं जहाँ पे लोग उनको उनके घर भेज देते हैं, उनकी ऐसे सामान ले लेते हैं,
हाँ जी।
उनके वहाँ से उनकी इज्जत खराब कर देते हैं उनकी लोकेलिटी में?
हाँ, होते हैं जी, लेकिन हमारे साथ तो अभी तक नहीं हुआ। हमारे कई सालों से अगर ऐसे ही लोन चल रहे हैं, हमारे साथ कभी ना किसी ने कोई गलत व्यवहार किया, ना घर पे आके किसी सामान को टच किया है, उठाया, ना कोई गाली गलौज, मतलब ऐसा कुछ भी व्यवहार गलत करके नहीं हुआ।
सर अभी तक नहीं है, तो क्या उस सर्कल में ही
हाँ
ऐसा?
जी, हमारा
आपने
पूरा
कभी सुना है कि किसी और के साथ हुआ?
नहीं जी, हमारे तो यहाँ पे 3-4 साल कर चल रहे हैं, वो सब ठीक ठाक चल रहे हैं।
अच्छा, ठीक चल रहा है।
Taken together, these interviews reveal a consistent picture of vulnerability. Small disruptions quickly escalate into larger crises, not because borrowers are unwilling to repay, but because the system allows for very little flexibility. It shifted the focus from debt as a financial issue to debt as a lived experience, one marked by pressure, fear, and a loss of privacy. And it raised a larger question. Not just how debt is given, but how people are treated when repayment becomes difficult.
I don't think it, since the agreements are so long, people are reading that agreement. I doubt. That I read in the newspaper also, I saw on the electronic media also, कि the court said कि nobody can read all terms and conditions. You are having a long agreement for that. People at that time, they need fund, they just sign that, they rely on the person who is coming to them.
Yeah.
So they are doing that. So I don't think people are aware about that. They are just checking ki what will be the interest rate, whether it is fixed or fluctuating, or what will be the tenure. If what is early closure is there, what will be the charges for that. Generally, people are going with that only.
We've talked with borrowers about pressure, embarrassment, and fear. The question then arises: What should happen next? What would a fair system look like? Is it one that protects people and supports genuine debt recovery? India does have rules meant to protect borrowers. The Reserve Bank of India has laid out clear expectations. Recovery agents must speak respectfully, avoid abusive or threatening language, and must not call outside reasonable hours, generally between 8 am and 7 pm. They must also respect your privacy and refrain from disclosing your financial situation to family, neighbors, or employers without consent. If debt is sold to an agency, the collector must provide written validation of the debt, the amount owed, who owns it, and how it was incurred if requested. One can dispute the debt if the information is inaccurate. These protections are very important. They exist to stop harassment, shame, and threats. But in real life, many borrowers don't know these rights exist. When a rule isn't widely understood, it's rarely enforced. And because third-party agents often operate with little oversight, violations continue. Agents call at odd hours, use pressure tactics, or appear unannounced. But where are the gaps? First, awareness is low. Most borrowers we spoke to had no idea that collectors are legally barred from abusive language, odd-hour calls, or discussing debt with others. Even if they did, they had no means to stop the harassment or to exercise their rights. Second, enforcement is weak. RBI guidelines bind banks and regulated lenders, but recovery agents acting on their behalf are not always licensed, trained, or monitored at the level required to stop misconduct. Third, there's no strong mechanism that gives a borrower immediate possibility when harassment happens, one that does not require months of paperwork or legal battles. To imagine a more robust system, we looked abroad, places with enforceable protections that go beyond guidelines. In the United States, the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, FDCPA, clearly defines what collectors cannot do. No harassment, no threats of arrest, no abusive language, and no contact at unreasonable hours. If a collector crosses the line, the borrowers can bring a legal claim that may result in compensation. In Alberta, Canada, the Collection Agencies Act goes even further. Every collector must be licensed. Collectors must be trained in ethical practices. Borrowers receive written notices explaining their rights and how to dispute debts. Violations like intimidation, misrepresentation, or contacting third parties without consent can lead to fines or loss of license.
What begins as a single missed loan payment quickly spirals out of control as penalty fees pile up faster than a borrower can afford to pay them back. This financial strain is immediately increased by an aggressive onslaught of collection tactics, starting with relentless, non-stop phone calls that continue even after a borrower explains their situation. The pressure soon escalates into the physical world as recovery agents arrive unannounced at homes and workplaces, transforming a private financial struggle into a public spectacle by involving neighbors, relatives, and employers without consent. This cycle of harassment and public shaming is fueled by a massive gap in consumer awareness. Rushed by complex loan agreements and dense language, most borrowers sign contracts without even understanding the hidden penalties or escalation clauses. Furthermore, many remain entirely unaware of their legal rights and central bank protections regarding respectful collection practices, operating only on the basic understanding that they must repay the debt at all costs.
What might a stronger framework for India look like if we drew from these examples? Mandatory licensing and training. Every recovery agent, whether employed by a bank, a non-banking financial company, or a third-party firm, should be licensed with standardized legal training on ethical practices. No license, no collection. Clear borrower rights at the start. At the time of loan origination, borrowers should receive straightforward, easy-to-understand documentation about how recovery works, permissible conduct, and how to raise complaints, not buried in fine print. Written notice and verification. When a debt is transferred or a recovery effort begins, collectors must provide written validation immediately. It should explain the amount owed, the original creditor, and how to dispute any claim. This needs to be legally mandatory, not optional. Immediate accountability. If a collector violates conduct rules such as calling outside permitted hours, using threats, or revealing information to others, there should be a fast, enforceable penalty, including fines, suspension, or revocation of license. Independent grievance body. A specialized body separate from lenders and banks should handle complaints quickly, with clear timelines and consequences. This would make it possible for borrowers to report harassment without navigating complex legal procedures. Crisis-sensitive recovery options. Instead of penalties multiplying after one missed EMI, lenders could be required to offer structured repayment plans or hardship accommodations, especially when people face short-term cash flow issues. These changes would not eliminate debt collection, but they would ensure it is human, fair, and lawful. The goal is not to make it easier for borrowers to avoid responsibility. The goal is to make the system just so that struggling borrowers are treated with dignity and clarity, not fear and confusion. In other words, debt recovery can be effective and humane if people's rights are no longer an afterthought. As we explored these experiences, one thing became clear. The issue is not just what happens during recovery, but how little people know about their rights. To tackle this, the best solution that would guarantee maximum impact would be to raise awareness through campaigns. This is where my campaign focuses, making information simple and accessible for those who need it most. In India, protections already exist under frameworks like the Consumer Protection Act and the RBI guidelines. These require recovery agents to act respectfully and within limits. Agents can ask for repayment and contact borrowers during reasonable hours, but they cannot threaten arrest, use abusive language, repeatedly harass, or involve family and neighbors. Harassment is not legal recovery. The campaign also shows what borrowers can do. Stay calm, ask for identification, request written details, and keep records. If needed, complaints can also be filed through proper channels. To see how this awareness changes things, we spoke again to one of our earlier interviewees. After understanding their rights, the situation felt much more clear, something they could respond to, not just endure. This campaign does not remove the responsibility to repay a loan, but it does aim to replace fear with awareness and create a system where both sides understand their role. Throughout this documentary, we explored how personal debt, something that is often seen as a normal part of modern life, can sometimes turn into a source of deep stress and uncertainty. Loans are meant to help people move forward, whether it is to manage an emergency, support a family need, or plan for the future. But as we heard from borrowers in Faridabad, when repayments become difficult, the recovery process was overwhelming. The stories shared in this documentary showed a pattern. Borrowers spoke about repeated calls, pressure from recovery agents, unexpected visits, and the embarrassment of financial struggles becoming visible to others. For many middle-class households, the emotional impact of these experiences can be just as significant as the financial burden itself. At the same time, this investigation also revealed that protections do exist. Guidelines issued by the Reserve Bank of India require recovery agents to behave respectfully, avoid intimidation, and contact borrowers only within reasonable limits. However, one of the key problems highlighted throughout this project is that many borrowers simply do not know about these protections. When people are unaware of their rights, it becomes much harder for them to challenge unfair practices. To better understand the issue, this documentary also considered the perspectives of experts working in finance, consumer rights, and law. Financial professionals explain that debt recovery is an important part of maintaining trust in any lending system. Without it, credit markets cannot function effectively. However, legal experts emphasize that recovery must always remain within clear ethical and legal boundaries. Consumer rights advocates added another perspective, pointing out that borrowers often face an imbalance of information and power, making it difficult for them to respond when those boundaries are crossed. Looking beyond India also provided useful insights. Laws such as the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act and the Collection Agencies Act demonstrate how clearer legal frameworks, licensing requirements for recovery agents, and stronger accountability mechanisms can help create a more balanced system. These examples suggest that debt recovery can remain effective while still protecting the dignity and the rights of borrowers. For India, the way forward involves strengthening enforcement, improving training and oversight of recovery agents, and also making borrower protections far more visible and accessible. When people understand the rules that govern financial systems, they are better equipped to navigate them confidently and fairly. Working on this documentary has also changed how I understand economics. Economics is often discussed in terms of markets, policies, and financial systems, but this project reveals something more personal, that behind every economic process are individuals and families making difficult decisions. Debt, regulation, and financial responsibility are not just theoretical concepts, they shape the everyday realities of people's lives. In many ways, this documentary is not just about debt collection, it is about awareness. If borrowers understand their rights, if lenders commit to fair practices, and if conversations about financial hardship become more open and informed, the system can begin to move towards something more balanced. Because debt itself is not the problem. The real question is how we choose to treat people when they are struggling with it.